afternoon.
Right, as you see, we're going to record these. I hope you're okay with it. If you're not, all you have to do is turn off your screen if you don't feel you want to be recorded. Since each of the rabbis is doing one and we're working on this same book, it's a good idea to have a recording of it for us, if not for future reference for the temple. And also, because this is a participatory process, not just it's not a lecture. It's taking us through a journey and a process. Therefore, if you want to participate, and I'm hoping you will, I'll be giving you plenty of opportunities to chime in, to give your feelings, your opinions. And if you don't want to, you just can stay muted and you don't have to. But part of this is the month of Elul, as you know, I hope you know, that runs up to Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. And it's the preparatory month where traditionally we prepare ourselves for the beginning of the new year. We do a cheshbon nefesh, an evaluation of our lives, of our souls, of our values, of where we are in life, and we prepare to make decisions, if we take it seriously, about where we want to improve or strengthen or move into new directions. So the book that we're using, since you're here, you know this. It's this book by Rabbi Alan Liu. And it has this wonderful title, This is Real and You Were Completely Unprepared, which is kind of a funny title because it doesn't tell you what's real and it doesn't tell you what you're unprepared for. So the book itself is a kind of revelation of yourself. If you go through it, it's meant to help us reveal to ourselves who we are and help us prepare. So I thought I'd start. We're doing chapter 2 this afternoon, but I want to read to you a little section from chapter 1. Rabbi Liu quotes a student of Buckminster Fuller. His student asked him, who is the most important figure in the 20th century? Now, you think of the entire 20th century, those of you that may know something about Buckminster Fuller know that he was devoted to science and economics and architecture. So the student expected maybe Einstein or someone in one of his fields, and he chose Sigmund Freud. He said Sigmund Freud was the most important figure in the 20th century. And the reason he gave is that Sigmund Freud brought the new great idea to modernity, that the invisible is more important than the visible. The invisible is more important than the visible. What is not seen directly with the eye or perceived directly with our senses, what is invisible is more important than what we see and what we feel, what we touch. Now, what's interesting, Rabbi Liu points out, this is the core Jewish idea, right? I mean, if we think about the core Jewish idea, what is the Shema? Right? What is the Shema? What do we say as our watchword of our faith? Anyone want to relate those? Mark Sternbaum.
We say to listen, to pay attention, not to look at, but to hear, to draw, to absorb by hearing and by understanding, not to look at a symbol. Right. That's where we will find God, is by listening and paying attention, not by looking for a symbol.
Good. Anyone else want to say something about that? We have anyone else? Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. How is,
Rabbi, I'm here, Roger.
where's here? Oh, I don't see everyone. Oh, Roger, there you are.
Well, actually, it's what Jacob's children said to him, Israel. Yes, we are here. We're listening. And the Lord is God. The Lord is one. It's one. The oneness of the universe.
Right, right. I think about both of those. Perceive what is there, that it is all one. You know, most of history is about various things, about valuing what we see out there, what's valued. People, when they worship aspects of the world around them, right? I mean, that's what the idol worship was to elevate certain aspects of what they saw. The Jewish insight is that everything is one. That's not perceived by the eyes. If you look out wherever you're looking at now, it doesn't look like one. It looks like many things. The Jewish insight is that everything is united. Everything is one. Everything is interconnected. And that would mean I am one with everything. I am interconnected with everything, with all of you, with my soul, with all that is, and ultimately, if I affirm it, with God. That everything is one. That's not something that we see. That's something that is an insight. In Hebrew, it's called a chidush. It's something new that Jews brought to the world. That notion of oneness, of that everything is interconnected. And we still struggle with it, and the world still struggles with it. It's not an easy thing, because after all, we said you can't see the deity. The deity is not in the sky or in the wind or in the water. That God is non-corporeal. We don't see God, right? We have to find ways to perceive, but that's true about our soul. You can't see a soul. You can't weigh the soul. You know, there were experiments in the 19th and early 20th century to weigh a body before a person died and then weigh them right after they died to try and see if you could weigh a soul. What did the soul weigh? Well, body does change weight when it dies, but none of that proved, because there was no consistent weight. There was no consistent loss with everybody that they measured. You can't measure it. You know, and as we know, even in various forms of quantum mechanics, you can't see dark matter, even though they posit that it's there. You can't see quarks, even though that is the basis for the Big Bang theory of how the universe was created. There's so much that's beyond our ability to perceive it. The invisible is more important than the visible. So this book is helping us journey through the invisible. If we take it seriously, if we really want to do this, we each decide how much do we really want to look at that which is in us and try to grapple with it and try to understand who we are in our core and perhaps get more in touch with what it is that is our neshama, our soul, our core self. Because it's natural in the process of dealing with what we might call the schmutz of life. You all know what schmutz of life is? Do you all have schmutz in your life? We all have schmutz in our life. It's the natural world. We got to deal with stuff. And I don't just mean physical stuff, all of the kind of things that take us in directions we never anticipated and stress us and make us go off the path. You know, this is a time to kind of reaffirm, reassess, and see who we are and see if we can maybe our course. It's kind of our GPS, when we make the wrong turns. What does the GPS say to us? Calculating, right? We're recalculating. Well, this is our time we're given it every year. We don't always take advantage of it, but we are. And these 4 sessions are meant to kind of give us a little bit of a process, and then hopefully in between each one of these sessions, whatever we do today, you'll allow that to sink in and maybe have some impact and maybe then affect the second session. And then by the time we get to Rosh Hashanah, each of us may have actually done some work that got us in a position where Rosh Hashanah will have more meaning to us. And we'll be able to understand that invisible that is more important than the visible. Any reactions to this yet?
Yeah. Can I talk?
Norma? Yeah.
Yes. So the journey through the invisible, is that equivalent to having faith? Faith is something intangible.
Okay. Yeah, sure. Faith is something intangible. It can be, but not for everybody. Everybody has different sense of how they make sense of the world. But yes, faith is certainly intangible, as is, all the great, midot love is intangible in the sense that it's an idea. It's tangible when you love somebody and you feel the love, but it's not tangible. It's something inside. It's something invisible. There's a lot in our lives that are like that. What else? Anybody else want to give us a thought?
So is that something, I feel that people who have great faith, that there's something innate in them that they can connect to the invisible. With others, it's a struggle, more of a struggle. Is it an innate, that ability to connect?
I don't know. Do you feel it?
I feel that I want to have faith, I aspire to it, but it's not something natural.
Right. Okay. Anyone want to jump in here?
Rabbi,
Patty?
I just had a response to Norma's question, and I'm reading the chapter and being almost done with the book. I must say, it's fantastic. The key word that came up for me in your presentation right now was preparing. That there are actual things that perhaps we can do to cultivate that leap or that bridge, maybe, that Norma is talking about. And I'll just leave it at that there seems to be more of not just an intention to prepare, but perhaps even a practice for preparing.
Good. Well, that brings us to the title of the book, right? This is real, and we are totally unprepared. So here is a way of preparing. So what is it that's real? What is real that we're preparing for? What do you think? There are no right answers here. This is about us.
Well,
Mark?
there is, I guess you got to put on mute. Yeah. Well, there's, we're blessed in Judaism with a structure that with the weeks and the days and the months, that there's a period of time that led up to Tisha B'Av and goes through Yom Kippur and Sukkot. It's a time in our annual life cycle where we're told to pause and reflect and do heshbon nefesh, the accounting of our souls. And so it's a beautiful structure that we've been given through our faith to take a pause, at least for me, and look back over this past year and do some deep dives. So
Good.
that's
Great. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone giving you.
Marilyn.
I'm sorry, who? Marilyn.
What I was thinking was it brings me back to my yoga practice and my teaching in terms of when we start the practice, we join together and we chant together. And it's kind of a way of bringing, if you want to use the word soul, a way of bringing our souls together through our voices and to get that, feel that connection. So in a sense that's invisible, but yet there's a sense of connection amongst all of us that we feel. We can't really touch it. And then the other thing I was thinking was, it just slipped my mind. I forgot. It'll come back to me.
That never happens to me.
It's a senior moment.
Oh, when you think of it.
Oh, I know. No, I got it.
Got it. Okay.
That what's real, because we talk about this in the practice also, that what's real is the here and now. So here we are. This is what's real right now in this moment. We're here on Zoom. We're all together. We're sharing. We're talking. So in a sense, in this moment, this is what's real. You know, we can think of it as we're all delusional, but in the moment, this is what's real. This is here and now.
Right.
Can I add something or?
Yes, Jody.
Okay, yeah. I don't know. After reading, I guess, chapter 1 and 2, I think preparation and Yom Kippur, I felt he was talking about we're preparing for death, and we want to make sure we leave this world atoned and doing the right things and being, you know, a good person before we die. We're preparing for our death, I guess.
Right. Well,
Doing the journey through life, you know, doing a righteous journey through life, and then, yeah.
right. Well, you read chapter 1. I don't know that everyone did.
Okay.
I only read chapter 2 that was sent out. But let me say something about chapter 1 and that journey. And Mark just referenced it as well. Rabbi Lou basically says that starting at Tisha B'Av, so we just had that about 6 weeks ago, when we mourn the destruction of our home, right? That was the home, the temple. And it was the destruction of our Israel, our country. It was our exile. We were exiled from our home when the temple was destroyed. That this period is trying to get back to rebuilding our home. And if we think of our home as our soul or our self, so Tisha B'Av began that process. We now move through this journey to get to Rosh Hashanah, where we begin to reaffirm. We go through what is our death, symbolically on Yom Kippur, and then on Sukkot, we build our temporary home again, right? So we are reaffirming, if you will, the structure that we are going to build throughout the year, but we build it first in a temporary way because we recognize we have work to continue on throughout the year. So he looks at the calendar that Mark talked about, this period, and talks about it as a personal journey that reflects the Jewish historical journey, right? What we actually did. And he also says, in effect, Jewish history is that journey, right? Because you can argue today with the state of Israel that Jews have begun to come home, right? To the home that we lost 2,500 years ago, that that journey of place to place is a journey we've been aiming for, and it's happened in our lifetime, which is miraculous. That doesn't mean it's permanent, because none of this is permanent. As you said, Mark, we all recognize on Yom Kippur that we die. That's a hard reality, but it's true. Nothing that is visible is as important as what is invisible, because everything that's visible will be gone at some point, right? And that could be true of our countries. It could be true of the world. We see with the ecological issues, who knows what 100 years will bring, or 1,000 years. But as Marilyn said, there is now. And if we hold on to what is now and try and work with the now and what we are, and see if we can make what we are more in line with who we really are, then we take seriously this time. Anyone want to comment on that? Alice? Yeah.
I just keep going back to the first sentence that you said, that he believed that Sigmund Freud was the most important person. And I was just thinking about Freud and ego and id, and, you know, we are what we're made up of in our experiences. And that's invisible to most people, except to ourselves. But if you really go inside, you'll see where all of why you act the way you do. And I thought that was very interesting that he picked Sigmund Freud as the most important person.
Well, it's interesting because Einstein's world, who we might have picked, reflects what Freud said. Because his whole world was about that which he could not see what he was describing, right? And that whole world, as I said, of quantum mechanics and quantum physics, no one has ever seen. It's all theoretical, and then it's proven by inference. But that is what the world is made of. You know, and what Freud is saying is the essence of life is that which we can only see, not just with our senses. So let's look at the text a little. Craig, if you could put up chapter 2, if we could screen share. We'll take a little look for a little bit. Okay, I don't know, can you see that? Everybody give me a thumbs up if you can see. Yeah, I see thumbs up, good. So what I want to focus on here is the sentence. I don't know if you can see my cursor, because probably not. But he says, so I'll read the first part. Before we begin this journey, before we walk this map of the soul step by step, let's first step back and take a look at the essential gesture of the journey, the single consistent movement that characterizes it from start to finish. I'm speaking here of teshuvah, a Hebrew word that we struggle to translate. We call it repentance. We call it return. We call it turning. It is all these things and none of these things. It is a word that points us to the realm beyond language, the realm of pure motion and form. Craig, could you let me see everyone again, please? So let's talk about teshuvah for a moment. Repentance, turning, what it is, what it isn't. What do you feel it is? What is teshuvah to you? Yes, Oliva. You got to unmute and then we'll hear you.
No, I raised my hand by mistake. I didn't want to say anything.
Oh, okay.
All right.
Okay, I see Patty. Okay. Unmute Patty.
No, I was just waving to Aliva, but I
Listen, guys.
I do have something, but I want to
Okay.
hear what
I
other
see you,
people say
Miriam. We'll
first.
get to you. Patty, what do you have to
Okay.
say? Okay, Miriam.
I think for me, it's coming back to yourself. Because if we don't work with ourselves, doesn't matter where we go back to. So it's coming back to you and see what you need to work. For me, it's something so spiritual that I cannot try to define what is my soul. I feel my soul is an energy that is there, but I don't try to define it, because if I try to define what it is, it loses its purpose. So for me, Teshuvah is coming back to yourself.
So it's coming back. Would you think the phrase coming home, does that mean anything to you?
Oh yes, coming home. I'm home. This is
Home
my
to yourself.
myself.
Right, because that's, Rabbi Lou describes that process of coming home. He uses at one point the baseball image, right? You leave home to round the bases to come home. But when you come home, that home is not the same home you left.
No.
Right, because you can't step in the same river twice. You're different, the river is different, the home base is different.
For sure.
Anyone else want to jump in?
I just have a short saying. We are what,
Marty.
we are what we are because of what we were.
We are what we are because of what we were.
Yeah.
Do you think we are condemned to be only what we were?
Well, I think it's what it is, and that's it. That is what it is, basically. And you trying to learn from that, I guess, to change. But I think the journey that we're about to take of introspection, which is what it really is all the way back, is a tough one. I think it's very tough to do.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll leave it at that. That's the way I feel.
Yes, Raquel.
Well, I was thinking, putting this together with what you said before about Freud, is kind of almost like making what he always said, making the unconscious conscious, that the more consciousness we get during that year in between, each of the Rosh Hashanah to the next year, it makes it more home, but in a different way, because we gain something that perhaps, it's like it uncovers something of that unconsciousness, the consciousness that makes us more real and coming home to a different, better place, perhaps. That's all.
Good. No, good. Yes, Patty, you got.
Okay, so they've all said what I was going to say in different ways, except that the idea of that invisible also is that, if we go with the Freud, I don't want to stay with the Freud because there's something way bigger than that. But if we go with that, then, that sort of master structure that Freud gave was of letting that what's invisible to us, even on an individual level, it's hard, like Marty says, to make that come, to come home to that is to reveal that, to make it conscious through awareness, right? So there's another step though from that, it seems, in this coming home. Because then there's, for the soul part, for the soul, for the real return home, like Raquel and Miriam were saying, is kind of ineffable, because it's not just about the individual, it's about us. It's not about me anymore. It's about that revelation needs, or that awareness, I feel, needs to move out. That's into something ineffable. I don't have a word for it, except you could say God.
Nice. Do you feel in general that people can change?
Absolutely. No question about it. I think, though, that it takes, whether we use a master, a practice, we're given a spiritual and a structural, like Mark said, the structures of our rituals and more importantly, I think, in Lou's book is the time that is sacred. This is so beautiful to me, this idea of that the Sabbath could be just another Friday. It's the awareness, he says, that we bring to it that is so special and so fruitful. And I don't know, I don't have the magic formula, but I think we can predispose ourselves in ways to that awareness and then take that action to change. Yes, I do. I do.
Rabbi,
Yes.
Rabbi,
Yes. Bob.
yeah. You might look at yourself as the home that you would look at your home, your physical home. And you can decide, do I like what it looks like? Or do I want to redecorate? Or do I want to refurbish? Or what do I want to keep? And what do I want to get rid of? And you want to see what your final look will be. And then you work on what you want to change about yourself to make your home look what you want it to be, as you would if you were redecorating your home.
So you're taking the metaphor very seriously, and you're walking us through that metaphor. I guess part of it also is to clean out the garbage, right?
Right, definitely. Throw out what you really don't need and what you shouldn't have, and bring in what would make your home better.
Thank you. I think, Gail, I saw your hand. Is it not up anymore? You know, you just put your, well, Gail, take your, I can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Now I hear you.
Yes.
Okay, the machine wasn't turned. Okay. For me, the return would be a constant return. Like I'm returning to, let's say, youth, and all of those memories that I have built on from my youth becomes who I am. But I have an opportunity each day to take time to reflect, to learn from other people. So it's like my soul is always changing, I guess. If the soul is just, you know, I don't know how to describe the soul, but I think it's constant learning every day and a constant reminder to yourself that there are opportunities. Even if you just sit and look out at the clouds, there are opportunities to appreciate what's all around you.
Right.
And so the return is constant for me. And then the present is right here and now, but in a flash, it moves. And that's past too.
Nice. So maybe we'll look at the text again. Craig, if you could put up the next page. Right. Okay. So what I want is this little paragraph down here where it says, but here is the $64,000 question. And some of us are probably not old enough to remember what that reference is, but a number of us are. So the $64,000 question, why do these biblical figures, meaning the heroes and heroines of the Bible that we know about, they all have to leave home in order to find a home, in order to leave again? More to the point, why do we? Why do they have to leave home in order to find a home, in order to leave again? Why do we? Do you think that's a question that resonates with you? Thank you, Craig. Let's see each other again, please. Yes, Miriam.
Well, we are constantly changing. We are not the same. What I was a half an hour ago, I'm not the same like today, like right now. So if I'm constantly changing, I have to leave home, to come home and to leave again, because it's a movement, it's energetically movement. It's something that you cannot describe, but we are energy, so we move all the time. That's what
Right.
means for me.
Right. Oh, Joni's going to say something. She's over here next to me. You can't really see her.
Hello.
There's,
Hi, Tony.
here, wait.
Oh,
Hi, Joni.
so I think leaving home is leaving your comfort zone of stretching yourself. And when you go outside of your comfort zone, you're also, then you return to who you were, but with a new understanding of perhaps what you can and can't do. But that's how I see home. Leaving home is leaving your comfort zone and coming back to it as with different experiences.
Thank you. Yes, Karen Revo.
Yeah, to quote my very favorite movie of all times, The Wizard of Oz, there's no place like home. And look what Dorothy had to do to realize how good she had it. So sometimes we take this life for granted and we miss all the blessings that are right in front of us. And sometimes we have to just take a step away. So that's, to me, what the high holidays, one of the blessings of the high holidays, is that opportunity to move just a little bit, to come back.
Thank you, Karen. Actually, I looked up a quote from Wizard of Oz before we started. From Glinda, what Glinda says in the book, it's not in the movie. She says, if we know ourselves, we're always home. If we know ourselves, we're always home. You know, and after all, in that movie, Dorothy always had the ability to go home, right? She always had the ability, but she didn't know how. She had to discover that she wanted to go home. She had to figure out and learn the adventures of what touched her soul and gave the values that were important to her. And then the method was simple. The method was always there. And in a sense, and by the way, that movie is a very Jewish movie. That would be a different class. And Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a very Jewish song, but we're not going to deal with it that way. Okay, some other comments? Yes, Marty.
Yeah, I think, this going home is also could be very spiritual. I have had a very, very close relative who believed he was an atheist his whole life. He he was bar mitzvah, but then became an atheist. And he contracted cancer later on in life. And so I was walking with him. He turned to me one day and he said, if God lets me live, I'll get this. And I was shocked. But there to me was, he left complete everything there was, never Rosh Hashanah, nothing at all the years. And I mean, true atheist. And all of a sudden, boom, he came back home to God. That to me is what leaving and coming back is.
That's the foxholes, right?
It is that.
Right. Rabbi Davis, I see your hand up. No, I see a hand there. Must be my hand. Oh, it is. Sorry. Anyone else before we go to the next page? Okay, Craig, if you could go to page 24. Okay, that's 21. Let's check the next one. 23, let's do next one, 24. Okay. So Rabbi Soloveitchik, who would like to read that first paragraph on page 24? We have a reader?
I'll read it, Rabbi.
Thank you.
We spend most of our lives, I think, in this strange dance, pushing forward to get back home, teshuva, turning, return, repentance, is the central gesture of the high holiday season. It is a circular motion, Rabbi Joseph Soloveitchik wrote in On Teshuvah, his classic work on the days of awe. If you're moving along the circumference of a circle, it might seem at first as if the starting point is getting farther and farther away, but actually it is also getting closer and closer. The calendar year is such a circle.
Okay,
I'm not sure.
I think if we could, Craig, see each other again. So I want to see if we can play with this idea of it being a circle. That's sort of the baseball image as well. Does that resonate with you? Does that idea of that the further you go on a circle, you're going away from the point that you began, but you're really getting closer to the same point, right? Because you're coming back to that same point. You just can't see it yet when you're on the circle. Does that make sense to you?
Rabbi.
Yes,
Mark. It's both true and not true about the Jewish year. We have a cycle, and we know that the holidays come around again, and we know that Elul will come, and we'll need to do our cheshbon hanefesh. And yet, hopefully, we're not the same person that we were when we went around last year. So it's not really the same. It's not really the same circle. It could be at a higher level or a lower level, a larger circle, a smaller circle. It's a circle, but it's not the same circle.
Mark, I have an image for that.
Patty?
The image that I have is like a gyration going up.
Like
A spring or a spiral.
Yes, exactly, like a spiral. So that as
Sure.
if there's one time going up this way, and then there's the spiral crossing over the same point, but on a level that's higher and wider and more expansive. Sometimes go Allison. Yeah, I just read her.
Did you see Allison said it was a slinky?
Yes.
But a slinky that's kind of like been pulled this way by a little kid, you know, where it's more narrow at the bottom and then hopefully gets wider. Anyway, just sorry.
Yes, Alana.
Yeah, hi. I think also in life, as we move around this round Earth and in the orbit with the sun, that's also round, we have, all of us, moments that are extremely challenging, and when we feel really, really far from maybe what is clear to us. But in fact, it's those moments when we're really, really far that we're on like a tipping point, perhaps toward the closest moment that will carry us, if you will, either back to us or closer to who we really are. But we have to go through this threshold almost of deep, deep discomfort and difficulty. And sometimes we don't have a choice about that at all. Sometimes it can be a pursuit of self-growth. But I think like all of us this year have in some way must have gone through something pretty extraordinary. And we really had to be pushed as a universe, you know, through this. But I think that in fact, this is this huge opportunity of the moment to get closer to who we are individually, but also kind of as a world. So I do think that in fact that moment of friction, when you are the farthest in some sense from what you at least consciously believe is you, it's worth a belief that if you going toward what is invisible will bring you then into that closeness to home. But we have to like hold our breath in that moment, or, you know, kind of trust into the unknown.
Thank you. That very helpful. You know, you brought up a point, and Norma began with it. I'm going to ask the question, does anyone feel that they got closer to belief in God this past year? Because you brought up this year. Do you feel that it drew you closer to your faith? Yes, Oliva.
Yes.
So I was raising my hand to say that I definitely feel that, especially with COVID and, you know, I had a granddaughter who was born, and she had all kinds of complications at birth, and it was a miracle, you know, and so there's many things that, you know, really solidified a stronger relationship with God and higher power.
Anyone else want to weigh in? Okay, then, Craig, if you would, let's get up to page 28 and 29. So that's, what are we, 27? Next page, please. There it is, 28, 29. So if you look at the middle paragraph, I'm going to read a little of it because we just talked a little about death. So our tradition makes precisely the same claim for death. Death, the only other time in our life when we recite Vidui, when we bring ourselves to the point of full awareness, also atones. Death, the destination of our journey through life, also heals. Teshuvah is the little death that connects us to the big one. Let me read that again, but I'm going to wait for a helicopter to pass by. Teshuvah, repentance, or teshuvah, return, renewal. Teshuvah is the little death that connects us to the big one. So now look at page 29 and see the paragraph, the first paragraph, Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is the day we all get to read our own obituary. It's a dress rehearsal for our death. That's why we wear, traditional people wear a kittel, a shroud-like garment on this day, why we refrain from life-affirming activities such as eating, drinking, and procreating. We are rehearsing the day of our death because death, like Yom Kippur, atones. Thank you, Craig. Let's see each other, please. Does that resonate with anyone? That notion that death atones, that teshuvah is a little bit of death, preparing us for the big one, and that it also atones. Yes, Roger.
I keep thinking of the word, a person that returns to their religion is called a Baal Shuvah.
Right.
And they are more honored than somebody that has been religious their whole lives. For some reason, people that have been, you know, faithful to the faith all this time, to be a Baal Shuvah is much better than just having done it through the norm. So I guess once you've been a Baal Shuvah, you're making that peace, you're making that change, you're ready for that change. You're going back home. I think it's an important thing to do that. I think that in my personal case, I think that's kind of what I've been. When you talk about religion, have you gotten close to it over these years? And yeah, sure, I think so. And I think it's helped me as well.
So what does Baal Teshuvah mean to you?
Somebody that's strayed from the path and has come home, come back to see the light, been close to their religion, gone back to your people. There's a thing in the Bible that says you shall be cut off from your people. And I think that, I don't know what you have to do that, but I think it's a terrible thing to do that, to like cut your heritage off from you, go and do all of these crazy things, and you know, you lose track of who you were. You're kind of out there. So once you come back home, you're normal. You're home again. Almost normal.
No, you know, whatever normal is. I'm not sure what the word means today. And in this case, you know, it's very specific that you're talking about a process that many people would say coming back to orthodoxy. Specifically, that's the text that it's used in. But but it does mean someone who has returned, teshuva, returned, and it could be used for any of us if we return to ourselves, right? I mean, that's what it literally means, a master or a mistress of the return, of the repentance, of the atonement. And by the way, I was in a session where the question was, where does the word atonement come from? And the etymology of atonement is very mysterious in English. It actually does come from at one-ment, to be at one. So what are you at one with, if not yourself? And the essence of who you are. That it apparently first appeared somewhere in the 16th century in some English literature, and it's derived from those two words being put together. So we think of it as a midrash, but it actually apparently, according to the piece that I read, which was the scholarly section, was how atonement came about as an English word, right? Other comments? Alice, was that wanting or not? No. Yes, Mark Reevem.
Yeah, I think about the high holidays when you ask this question in the Unatana Tokef, and the deep, powerful experience that I feel where I find myself working really hard to forgive myself, to make sure I righted the wrongs that I had done. I had talked to the people, sort of made peace, and had a very powerful experience with my mother, who was dying at that period of time, and we were on Zoom with the synagogue watching the high holidays live, and she in between would get on the phone and call her friends and family and sort of say what she needed to say. And she ended saying, I'm very much at peace. I don't have regrets. And it was seeing sort of this vidui at the end of life as I was going through sort of a smaller experience during the high holidays. So that connection where you say it's like living a small part of your death, I mean, that really strikes me deeply.
Yeah. Anyone else? I don't want to miss anyone.
Rabbi, I have a question for you. It's Adele.
Answer? Yes.
My question is, as we talk about this, it seems that atonement is a kind of purification. And although I don't know all the commandments about spiritual purity, I am wondering if there's any correlation between this kind of atonement, the atonement of Yom Kippur, and the atonement right before death, and purification, spiritual purification.
Well, I would say there's no question that the rabbis modeled Yom Kippur, the activities of Yom Kippur that we don't do, on a death-like experience. They wanted us to be removed from the physical world as much as possible and try to focus on what is invisible, what is real, right? And be prepared at that moment. When he said we write our obituaries on that day, the example he gave was the example of Alfred Nobel. who, I don't know if you read the chapter, you know, Alfred Nobel, accidentally, they published his obituary when he was alive. And he had been the inventor of explosives that had been used in war to kill people. And that's what his obituary said. And he said to himself when he saw that obituary, I don't want to be remembered that way. So what Rabbi Lou says, in effect, it's an opportunity to think of what would your obituary be on Yom Kippur? Is that what you want? Because Nobel then established these special awards by using the money he had made with his invention in order to promote, you know, science and achievements and making life better for others. And we all think of Nobel today in that context. He was able to redirect, if you will, his life in that way. Now, very few of us have that opportunity, but there is that notion that on Yom Kippur, we can think about that and then try to start rebuilding our homes for Sukkot, right? 5 days later, try to begin the process of rebuilding in the direction we want to, right? That is the opportunity. Dennis, Russ.
So I like Nobel. I mean, my concept is that we have the opportunity to be creative, and we have the opportunity, the great mission, the great project is to take a look at our lives as an opportunity for creativity, to become what we want to become, what we choose to become. And the notion of using Yom Kippur as also an opportunity to consider what to become and to then poise to become creative, to become that. You know, I was feeling a little uncomfortable with return, because I see the opportunity of becoming. And so I like Nobel. I like his idea.
Which one, the previous one or the new one?
The new Nobel Prize one.
Oh, there you go. Right.
I mean, I suspect that, you know, that became the origins of the Nobel Prize.
Oh no, that he endowed it. That's exactly where the money comes from to this day.
So his look is the opportunity to become creative and to undertake to become, not only to return, but to become.
Good. Anyone else want to have a final say before I read the last paragraphs? Yes, Alana.
I just have a question. In my experiences of the Jewish New Year moments amongst, just say, cohorts of mostly reform-oriented individuals, it feels like there are large groupings who come in with that rushing of the closing of the gates, you know, and to want to do certain ritual practices that some have mentioned, you know, repenting or saying sorry or doing sort of somewhat at times surface level things, but at times like potentially meaningful pieces. And I just wonder, in the Jewish education process for all who are in this more reform movement, where are the opportunities like we are all having like this for more to really understand this very critical and really like life-changing opportunity? Because even in my own family, like I feel that maybe they don't know this real depth of the essence of what we're living and what we step into at each cycle of the new year. And I think that that's a loss, to just show up and perform a ritual, to not really choose at least the choice you want to make around home or what it could mean to you. And I know that's a big question, but I just wonder your thoughts, having led probably various congregations. How do we enable this opportunity for more?
Well, you talk to Rabbi Davis, who is right here. I'm sure he would be really happy to direct you and your family. I mean, the reality is there are opportunities in every synagogue. We certainly have lots of opportunities. He's just working on the draft of all of our adult study opportunities for this year, and it's an enormous, really very rich, deep offering. And the more you want to participate, it's there. And that's true, because of Zoom now, you can do that not just with us, but all over, and your family can. And in many cases, doesn't cost anything. You just have to, click in. And it's certainly available. And I would say you should, give Rabbi Davis a call, and I'm sure he'll give you all kinds of advice and where to go.
Yeah, sorry, may I just follow with one quick thing? No, I very much appreciate that, and I will certainly follow with Rabbi Davis. I wanted to just say that I think what's coming to mind, and pardon the fact that this may not be true for all sermons that have been given, because clearly I haven't listened to them all, and I'm only new here in this synagogue, but it feels to me that at the high holiday moment, there is this enormous opportunity for the mass to listen. They might not even take the chance to meet like the Rabbi Davis, and I'm talking about many other synagogues well beyond yours, because I'm new to this one, but I'm just kind of asking at that higher level, because it feels that most people don't make this choice for this engagement. And that's a gift and an opportunity that I'm sure you're all providing. I'm just wondering about maybe clergy or moments where masses can hear the message more. That's where that comes from.
Right. Well, the way I would respond is in every system, there are always the masses, and that includes in the Orthodox, Conservative, Reform, Renewal, all of them. And then there are those who take it more seriously. And then there are those who take it very seriously. And it isn't always the same group. And there's another year, and there's another cycle. And when someone's ready, they begin to enter into the process, and then they can plug in, and there's lots of ways of growing. But not everybody's ready to grow at the same time. And that's true for lots and lots, not just of Jews, but people in general. When they're ready, that moment can arise and the opportunity is there. So Rabbi Lou ends this chapter by talking about a river. He says, our home is a river, a fluid place, a place where there is no stopping point, a place where we can stop clinging and stop being driven out of life, a place of teshuvah, a place that will return us to ourselves, where we can feel our lives flowing, healing, coming home. We all live in such a river. So welcome to the river, and enjoy the water and the ride and the change. And Rabbi, when is it next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday, exactly, 5 o'clock.
Right. So there are 4 in a row, 3 more that will cover some of the chapters. And you can order the book online if you haven't gotten it. It's a good read. Rabbi Davis.
And I would thank you, Rabbi. Beautiful. And just to mention for those of you that have been coming for Torah study on Saturday, this week we will be only virtual. We will not be in person on Saturday.
And that's true for services as well this week.
Exactly.
Everything is because of the Delta variant and the rise in COVID down here. We're just out of precaution. We're trying to, take it week by week. We'll let you know when it changes. So have a wonderful journey in Elul and enjoy the ride.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi. Be well, everyone.
And stay safe, people.